Welcome back to part 2 of my interview with the Art Daddy. If you haven't seen it, go to part 1 if you want to see my most comprehensive, honest, and unfiltered interview about my art business, what I do, and my thoughts on the art world as a whole. Okay, diving back in. Okay, so AD asks, can you walk us through the soft sculptures you sell? How did that come about? Because they are chaotic. Now, before I get into my answer, here are the aforementioned soft sculptures. Here's Bentley and Martha, butler and maid. Here is a bagel vendor. And here is Charlie Chaplin. And you may be looking at this wondering the same thing that the interviewer was wondering, which is, what the fuck am I looking at? And I want to tell you, and I say this might be my favorite question. I love the soft sculptures. They're so fun, they're zany, and my grandparents discovered the artist Susan Nolan, who is unbelievably talented, by the way, a few decades ago, and they saw something special, and they were totally right. And they're far from the main thing I deal other art in much higher quantities that sells for much higher prices, but they've become a steady business, and you would be surprised what homes they're in. They're in some politician homes, and they're in some celebrity homes that you would know. And I jokingly quip here, will they be at the Whitney, which is a famous American art museum? Probably not, but it would be pretty funny. And then I say, look, not everything in art has to be philosophical and high concept and make you deeply think. Sometimes art can just be silly and fun. Just like music, not all music has to make you cry. Sometimes you can just want to dance and have a good time to it. You know, while I'm at it, I want to talk about the heady glass, the glass bongs and dab rigs that I sell, because when the show was coming out, I saw all over Reddit people being like, oh, he's calling himself an art dealer, but he's basically just selling bongs, because there's a section on my website where I sell bongs and dab rings and heady functional glass. And I want to first start by saying this bong right here, it's actually a dab rig, is $300,000, okay? This is not like your local Illadelph. These are serious artists. In fact, I visited Joe Peters' studio out in Colorado, and it was insane. I've never seen such flame work artistry with glass. This piece right here, which is $35,000 by the way, is called the Sea Life Upline. And if you look, so this is where the user smokes from. By the way, I'm not even a weed guy, but you just have to appreciate this. And if you're wondering, no one actually really smokes from this. I mean, maybe you would once, but it'd be so crazy to clean. It's more like it's art in the sense that because you could smoke from it, that's what makes it art. It's kind of like there's some really high-end furniture that's very conceptual that you almost wouldn't actually sit in your living room, but the art is just the fact that it is a piece of furniture. But if you look here, the smoke goes down that tube here and it percolates out through the octopus's tentacles and then goes all the way up through some of the fish here and the fauna or in sea life and out through the mouth. It is just spectacular. And a final point on this, just because they're expensive, that's not what makes it art. And you can make like cheap pipes and that's still art. I think really anything can be art. But I really don't say this to defend myself, but to defend these artists, because people are trying to say that these people are somehow in a different category than other artists. And I vehemently disagree. These are just as incredible artists as some of the greatest names that you've heard of. Okay, moving on. So AD then asked, what's your biggest art world ick right now, and what's something that I'm excited about? My biggest ick in the art world right now, and I think it's really messed up, is how certain collectors and galleries and dealers will buy art from marginalized artists and communities, and they act like it's some virtuous act, like it's activism, but really it's just speculation, because they're essentially banking off of a political movement. So they'll literally meet together and be like, oh, did you hear that? Black artists are going to be popular in the next 6 months. There's this particular artist, or female impressionist artists, or Latin American artists, or Indian artists. There's literally cycles, and they buy the artists because they're not valuable, and then they will get them into museums, pump up the value, and sell them. And they pat themselves on the back like they're being so virtuous, but it's really just to make money. And it's performative. And you may think, well, they're making money, and helping marginalized communities, right? No, they're making money, but it's actually harmful because it masks the greed as altruism. And it actually distorts the conversation around equity because they feel like, and they trick other people that they're doing something good, but then they're not actually making the changes that need to really happen in the art world. Literally just this past week, I went to a show by a major gallery that was one of the benefactors, hosted in a major museum in New York with a major marginalized artist. If you really dig deep, you can probably find what I'm talking about. And it just pissed me off. In fact, I say here that just this in general really pisses me the fuck off. And a lot of people in the art world are complicit about it. And because Art Daddy's got me ranting here, I figure I'll give another ick. I love complaining. I'm world class at it. Another ick is the meteoric rise of the Gmail Art Advisor. Now, Gmail Art Advisor is a pejorative term in the art world because here's the thing. The art world is unregulated. Anybody can say they're a dealer. Anybody can say they're an advisor. And the Gmail Art Advisor basically means someone that has so little experience or understanding about the art world that they don't even have like a custom email address. That's just like John Smith Art Advisory at gmail.com. Implying that they're very inexperienced, and they're popping up everywhere. And I say, basically, I quip here, I say, these days, if you got a website, which some of them don't even have, a pair of summer walks, which is like a fancy Italian loafer that a lot of us in the art world wear, and a family friend with a Warhol, then boom, aka basically, if you grew up rich, then boom, you're an art advisor. Time to send WhatsApp PDFs to everyone you know. By the way, in the art world, everyone uses WhatsApp because it's very international. On a lighter note, what excites me are artists using social media like Instagram to sell their works. And it's so surprising to me that it's not a bigger sales channel for galleries and more traditional art world professionals. And as I've become more active and plugged in on Instagram since the show came out, my eyes have been opened to a whole amazing world of artists that aren't represented by galleries that are on Instagram. Some of the most talented artists I've seen on Instagram. And I think it's wonderful. I know there's a lot of issues with social media, but one of the amazing things is you no longer need to have rich parents to get a master's in fine arts and move to New York City. You can be anywhere in the world. And I know artists all over the world that are making not just livings, but fantastic livings selling their art exclusively through Instagram and a website. And here AD asks more about the Gmail art advisors. Do I think they're predatory, or do I just think they're not that big of a deal? And basically I say, I don't think they're predatory, but they are a really big issue because anybody in this business can say they're an art advisor or an art dealer and just begin. And a lot of these art advisors are like the artsy one in the rich people's friend group. And I say they're not bad people, they're just someone's friend, and people like to do business with their friends. The issue is, most of your friends don't know what the fuck they're doing because they don't have 50 years of experience and multiple family generations. You can't find this on the internet, you know what I mean? This is like deep stuff. And what happens is then their friends, or sometimes ex-friends, end up overpaying. The art's not insured properly. They don't get the documentation, so it's hard to sell. They pay extra fees. It's not shipped correctly, so it gets damaged. All sorts of things. I've had to clean up so many messes from these Gmail art advisors, and they're really well-meaning, but they do cause a lot of problems. However, there's this one art advisor, her name is Lisa Schiff. She was like the real deal. She was literally the art advisor to Leonardo DiCaprio and some other people. But she's now went to jail because she defrauded a bunch of people. And she actually liked to talk shit about all the Gmail art advisors, but it's kind of funny because like she also was doing stuff that was actually probably way worse. So, you know, hey, nobody's perfect. So as I mentioned, I spoke at the Hamptons Fine Art Fair, and it was fantastic. It honestly exceeded all expectations. The fair's owner, Rick Friedman, is an incredible guy. He is like lives and breathes art. He's got an incredible collection of de Koonings, and it's actually one of the better fairs I've been at. And the fair asked me to host Young Collectors Night and share some words. And here I say HFAF is not TAFAF. Sort of like a joke I was making. Hamptons Fine Art Fair is not the European Fine Art Fair. The European Fine Art Fair is one of the most elite prestigious art fairs in the world. And the Hamptons Fine Art Fair is not one of the most elite prestigious art fairs in the world. It's still prestigious, but it's not like TAFAF. And that's okay. Not everything has to be super prestigious. In fact, I think some of the most exciting things in the art world are not these elite old stuffy fairs. In fact, TAFAF is actually having major issues in Europe attracting collectors and buyers because it's a lot of old folks and a lot of young people don't want to go to TAFAF. In fact, if you walk around TAFAF, which it's in Maastricht in the Netherlands, it's like literally all 75 and 80-year-olds. Here, maybe because I'm talking too much, as I always do, AD asked to describe my art taste in 3 words, which is tough, but I say contemplative, kinetic, purposeful. You can interpret what that means. Final question AD asks is, what's one misconception about me that I'd like to clear up? I'm going to read this word for word because I actually took a little bit of time to write this. And I'll start by saying, I'm okay in being misunderstood, but if there is one misconception that I would like to clear up, it would be probably that I'm not that serious. Look, I get it. The memes, the reality TV thing, the Instagram, it's not exactly giving buttoned up art dealer. So I understand why some people who've never met me wonder if I'm all sizzle, no steak. But the truth is, I was raised in a pressure cooker. I'm an only child, and my whole family who raised me in this business is gone. I inherited the business in my mid-20s, and it's something I take incredibly seriously. I have a lot of pride in what I do. My upbringing was intense and, frankly, a little Spartan. There was nothing casual about it. Despite my mildly unhinged public persona, I run things in a very real way. People who meet me are usually surprised by how self-aware I am about how I come off online, where the art world is headed, and what I think about it all. And more times than I can count, I've gotten that slightly stunned, wait, you actually know your shit, followed immediately by asking for a favor. Honestly, I kind of love that. I'm playful, daddy, but I don't play. And that, my friends, concludes this interview.